The war is over. It isn't winding down. It isn't almost finished. It is done. You no longer have to fight for what was already signed and sealed in your name before you drew your first breath. The decree has been issued. The future the enemy tried to cancel is still standing. And the voice you're hearing right now didn't find you by accident. You didn't just click on this video. You were assigned to it. There is a massive difference between the two. And before this is over, you're going to understand exactly what that difference is. God is speaking now. Before another word is said, I orchestrated this moment for you, not for comfort, but for confirmation. What has been decreed over your life doesn't require your strength to remain standing. It is held up by my name. You have won a battle you didn't even know was being fought on your behalf. And I needed you to hear that today. Stay until the very end. Before we finish, you will receive the activation protocol for what has already been won. This isn't something you need to earn. It's something you need to recognize as already belonging to your legacy. Stay. There's a feeling that isn't quite sadness. It's not exactly depression. There isn't a neat label for it in a single word. It's somewhere between total exhaustion and profound confusion. It's the sensation of doing everything right and still feeling like you're standing still while the rest of the world is a blur of motion. That's what you're feeling, isn't it? You found yourself staring at your phone in the dark of your room, not even looking for anything, just needing something in your hands. The blue light washing over the ceiling, and you're not even sure why you picked it up. There was no message you were waiting for, no news that was going to change your life. Just the sheer weight of being awake in that silence, and the phone was the only thing that felt solid enough to hold on to. You've woken up before the alarm. You sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floorboards. A wordless question rising slowly from your chest. It's not a question you can even say out loud, because if you tried to put it into words, it would sound like ingratitude. But it's there, silent and persistent. A question about time. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual, with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video. A question about time, about when, about why everyone else seems to have received the very thing you're still waiting for. You've been in the room, in the meeting, in the group, when someone else was promoted, praised, or remembered. And it wasn't you. And you clapped. You were genuine about it too. It wasn't an act. But when you walked out of that room, there was something inside you that you had to swallow down. It wasn't envy. You truly want the best for them. It was just the quiet realization that it still wasn't your turn. And you had no idea when your turn would ever come. There is a weariness that sleep cannot fix. It's the kind of tired that comes from carrying an expectation that hasn't arrived yet. From holding on to faith under the weight of not yet. From smiling on the outside while processing the storm on the inside. It's the exhaustion of someone who has been in the heat of battle without ever receiving the official memo that the war was even happening. If any of these scenes describe what you've been walking through, let the like button be your public amen. Heaven records what you confess openly. Hit it now. But listen, you are still standing. And that is no small thing. That is not a coincidence. That is evidence. It is proof that there is something about your life that could not be broken, no matter how many nights tried to bend you. You are still here. And that means something very specific. Something this message was designed to tell you. Before I tell you what you're going to receive in this message, I need you to hear this. God says, before I tell you what is coming, I need to tell you this. I saw every morning you got up without knowing why. I saw the silence you learned to carry. I wasn't a distant witness. I was the father in that room with you on those dark nights. I saw the question you couldn't find the words for. I saw the effort no one else applauded. And I needed you to know that before anything else. In this message, you are receiving 3 specific things. First, the truth about what this cycle of waiting actually means. It isn't abandonment, it's formation. There is a world of difference between the two, and you're going to see it with a clarity you've never had. Second, a 3-step protocol to activate what has already been won. Not to ask for it, but to receive what is already sealed in your name. Third, a declaration you will say out loud before we finish. Out loud, not in your head, because there is a level of activation that only happens when the voice leaves the body. From exhaustion to clarity. From invisibility to decree. From meaningless waiting to purposeful positioning. From the heat of battle to a victory already won. This is the path of this message. Don't break the connection. Stay. Archangel Michael does not speak to those who haven't been chosen. This isn't a channel for generic spiritual fluff. This specific message, with this specific title, reaching you at this specific moment, is your first sign. But there are others, and you need to recognize every single one of them. The first sign is the homeless fatigue. It's when your body feels a weight that has no physical explanation. You've slept, you've eaten, you aren't sick, but there's a heaviness, a fatigue that doesn't match what you did or didn't do in the physical world. This isn't weakness. This is your body registering what your spirit is facing. When the battle in the unseen realm is intense, the body feels the shockwaves. That unexplained exhaustion is the sign of an active battle being fought over your destiny. And an active battle means there is something worth defending. The second sign is the feeling of being out of place exactly where you are. Not everywhere, just in specific environments. Places where you are physically present but feel like you don't fully belong anymore. It isn't arrogance. It isn't ingratitude for what you have. It's divine orientation. When you've been called to something greater, your spirit knows the difference between where you are and where you were designed to be. That feeling isn't a toxic dissatisfaction. It's your spiritual compass working. The third sign involves your dreams. If you've had recent dreams of conflict, of protection, of flying, of intense light, or figures that felt like warriors, do not dismiss them. Dreams are the field reports from the spiritual realm. When Archangel Michael is active around your life, your dreams change. They become more vivid. They carry a weight of meaning that you feel in your gut but can't quite translate when you wake up. Those dreams are not random. The fourth sign is this: someone tried to diminish you and failed. It might have been a person. It might have been a situation. It might have been a sequence of circumstances that should have resulted in your downfall, but didn't. You kept going. The plan didn't work. What should have destroyed you only left a footprint of where it passed without the devastation it intended. That wasn't luck. That was active coverage. Archangel Michael operates as the executor of the decree, and when there is a decree over your life, the attacks that land hit a shield you didn't even raise with your own hands. The fifth sign is that you arrived here without knowing exactly why. Think about the sequence of steps that brought you to this exact moment. You didn't plan to be here. There was a nudge, a recommendation, an algorithm, an impulse you didn't overthink, and it brought you to this video right now. Your steps led you here without any conscious calculation on your part. That is the sign that you aren't following your own script. You are being moved within a much larger masterpiece. The next sign is the one that is hardest to hear. It's the one the enemy has spent the most time trying to make you ignore. It's the sign he has worked tirelessly to suffocate inside of you. The sixth sign You feel chosen. There is a part of you that knows, in a way you can't fully justify with external evidence, that you were called for something, that what you came here to do has weight and specificity, that your presence in this time isn't an accident. You feel it, and at the same time, you're terrified to say it out loud, because it feels like pride, because no one around you has validated it, because your current circumstances don't confirm it yet. But that fear isn't spiritual humility. That fear is the enemy's strategy. Because the moment you say out loud that you are chosen, the decree begins to move in the visible world. Type "free" in the comments if this word reached your heart. Close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. What I'm about to tell you doesn't work if your attention is divided. Let the other tabs in your mind close. Let the other worries wait for just a few minutes. This next part requires you to be fully present. There is a man in the Bible named Gideon. You probably know the name. But the detail that matters isn't the famous battle. It's the moment before. Gideon was hiding in a wine press, threshing wheat in secret because he was terrified of the enemies. And it was exactly in that moment, at the point of the lowest visibility in his life, that the angel of the Lord appeared and said, "The Lord is with you, mighty man of valor." Not, "You're going to be brave." Not, "Try to have more courage." Mighty man of valor in the present tense. While he was hiding, while he was afraid, while every piece of external evidence shouted the exact opposite of what the decree proclaimed about him. And Gideon answered like any honest person would. He argued. He listed all the reasons why the wrong guy had been called. "My family is the weakest. I'm the least in my father's house. You're looking at the wrong person." The response wasn't a counter-argument to every item on his list. The response was, "I will be with you." Gideon's qualification didn't come from his resume. It came from the one who chose him. What Gideon carried wasn't obvious skill. It was a decree. And a decree doesn't need a CV. Now think of another image. A diamond in the rough. Unpolished. Uncut. In the raw form it takes when it first leaves the earth, it looks like a common stone. It doesn't sparkle yet. Its edges don't reflect light. To an untrained eye, it's just another rock in a pile of rocks. But the geologist knows. The geologist recognizes it by the context, by the depth it came from, by the structure that looks like nothing else around it, and he knows that what he's holding isn't a rock. It's the hardest material in nature, and he knows something else. The pressure that formed that diamond wasn't destruction. It was the exact process that revealed what was inside. Without the pressure, without the dark chambers beneath the earth, without the weight of layers upon layers for years on end, there is no diamond. There is only common mineral. Gideon in the winepress, the diamond in the dirt, and you, right here, today. Write in the comments which of these images you identify with more. Gideon or the diamond. Let me stop for one full minute. You have carried cycles in silence that should have broken a person. You went through situations where the enemy bet everything he had on your collapse. And you didn't fall. You might have stumbled. You might have reached a dangerous edge, but you didn't fall. You carried questions that had no immediate answers without losing your faith entirely. That is not small. That is extraordinary. And it needs to be named before we move on. God says, "I needed you to go through exactly what you went through. Not because I was cruel, but because I knew what was being formed. Every night you sat on the edge of the bed, not understanding what was happening to your life. Every time you were ignored when you deserved to be recognized, when the effort no one saw should have received what was given to someone else. Every cycle that seemed to have no exit, that made you wonder if there was something specifically wrong with you. I was there, in every single one of those moments. I was there. And what was forged in those dark chambers, what was formed in that process that felt like too much, too cruel, too long, is exactly what is going to sustain the weight of what's coming. You didn't survive by luck. You were sustained because the decree over your life required you to arrive here whole. And here is who you are in the middle of all this. You are a survivor of the decree. Not in the generic sense that you went through hard times and stayed alive. In the specific sense that there is a decree over your life, and that decree created active coverage over every situation that was meant to destroy you. The declaration is this: you didn't just get through it. You were carried through it. There is a difference. Getting through implies you gathered enough strength to cross the obstacle. Being carried through means the force that took you across wasn't yours. You were moved by something larger than your own capacity to resist. And there are moments, if you're honest, when you know this. When you look back at what you went through and you can't explain how you made it to the other side with what you still have. The explanation isn't in your strength. It's in the decree. God says, I placed a resilience in you that doesn't come from human power. The situations that should have shattered you were blocked one by one. Not because you weren't vulnerable, you were, but because what is written about your destiny cannot be canceled by an enemy attack. You didn't just survive, you were covered. There is a difference, and you need to know which one it is, because how you interpret your past determines how you walk into your future. This gives you permission to stop calling your victories luck. When you look back and see you made it out of something that should have finished you, don't call it luck. Call it by its right name. Decree, coverage, sustenance that didn't come from you. You are a bearer of a sealed destiny. The declaration is this: your destiny is not currently pending approval. There is a difference between a rough draft and a sealed decree. A draft can be edited, canceled, or rewritten. A sealed decree carries an authority that is not open for negotiation. What has been decreed about your destiny isn't waiting for the right circumstances or perfect timing or for you to reach a good enough level of merit. It is already sealed. God says, before you existed in time, what you came to do was already written, not as a draft, but as a decree. The enemy cannot cancel what was sealed before he even existed. Every detour was anticipated. Every obstacle was accounted for before it was ever thrown. What looks like a delay isn't a failure in the plan. It is part of the plan. You aren't late for your destiny. You are being positioned for it at the exact moment that positioning needs to happen. This gives you permission to let go of the anxiety of the deadline. The time-based comparison you make between your life and the lives of others is based on a false premise that all destinies follow the same calendar. They don't. Yours has a date that belongs to no one else. You are chosen for this hour. The declaration is this: you didn't arrive early. You didn't arrive late. You arrived exactly when you were meant to arrive. This isn't generic comfort. This is strategic positioning. There are moments in history that require specific types of people. Moments that need someone who has gone through specific formation, who carries specific marks, who has exactly what the moment requires in their internal structure. You weren't placed in this era by accident or random distribution. You were put here because what this moment demands is exactly what was formed in you. God says, I didn't put you in this time by coincidence. I put you here because what this moment requires can only be carried by someone who has walked the path you've walked. The formation that felt like too much, that felt too long, too intense, is exactly proportional to the weight of what you've been called to carry. Others couldn't hold what was assigned to your name. The assignment is specific. The recipient is specific. It is you. This gives you permission to stop comparing your timeline to others. Someone else's progress is happening in someone else's script. It doesn't consume a single drop of what has been reserved for your name. Write in the comments the identity you recognized in yourself: survivor, bearer, or chosen. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, do it now. Because what this message started doesn't end here. There is more, and you need to be present when it arrives. Now comes the protocol. I need you to pay attention to a distinction before I give you the steps, because this distinction changes everything. This protocol isn't to win what you don't have yet. It's to activate what has already been sealed. There is a massive difference between asking and receiving. When you ask, you start from a position of lack. When you receive, you start from the position of someone accessing what already belongs to their name. The activation protocol works on the logic of receiving, not earning, not deserving, not accumulating enough faith points to unlock it. The decree has already been signed. The protocol is how you activate what is already yours. Step 1. Declare these 3 identities out loud today before you sleep. Out loud, not in your thoughts. Say, I am a survivor of the decree. I am a bearer of a sealed destiny. I am chosen for this hour. Say it 3 times if you have to. Speaking it out loud does something that silent thought cannot. It activates the decree in time. It moves the affirmation from the internal realm to the external realm. And what was decreed over your life in the spiritual realm must be confessed in the physical realm for the two to align. Don't wait to feel it before you say it. Declare it first. The feeling follows the declaration, not the other way around. Step 2. Get a piece of paper and a pen. Not your phone. Paper and pen. Write down the name of the situation this message touched. The specific situation that came to mind while you were listening. The cycle that seems endless. The battle you've been carrying. Name what has been defeated. Write it with your own hand, in your own words. This battle is over. I no longer have to carry the weight of name of situation. The decree has been issued. Naming something has power. To name something is to reclaim authority over it. When you name what has been defeated, you are doing what a general does when he signs a surrender. You are formalizing in the physical world what has already been decided in the spiritual one. Step 3. Raise your hands with your palms facing up for 30 seconds. In silence. This isn't a prayer of pleading. It's a posture. The posture of someone who is receiving, not someone who is fighting. Hands up, palms open, in silence. For 30 seconds. You will feel something in that moment. I can't tell you exactly how it will manifest for you, but you will notice a specific stillness. It's different from emptiness. It's different from the silence of your dark room with a phone in your hand. This is the stillness of someone who has arrived after a long journey. The stillness of recognition. It isn't intense emotion. It's a settling. Type received in the comments if you are accepting this protocol. I need to prepare you for what is coming in the next 72 hours. Because the enemy will respond. Not as a possibility, but as a certainty. When a decree is activated, when you position yourself to receive what is already sealed, there is a predictable adversarial response. This isn't to scare you. It's so that when it comes, you recognize it and know exactly what to do. The first tactic is selective memory. It won't show up with a demon label. It will show up labeled as realism. It will bring to your mind all the cycles of waiting that hurt. The moments you thought something was about to move, and it didn't. The long stretches of silence. It will present all of that as evidence that what you're feeling right now is an illusion, or just a temporary high that will fade like the others. Selective memory will collect only your moments of pain to build an argument that nothing ever changes for you. The weapon against it is simple. The decree was issued before this memory even existed. What was sealed over your life is not subject to a review based on your history of waiting. The history of waiting was part of the formation. It is not evidence of an absent destiny. The second tactic is comparison with those who are moving. Someone around you is going to take a visible step toward exactly what you want. A promotion, a relationship, an opportunity, a win that you don't have yet. The enemy will use that person's visible victory to plant the idea that it happens for them, but not for you. that there is something fundamentally different about you that blocks what flows freely for everyone else. The weapon. The scripts are different. Someone else's progress doesn't consume a single bit of what was reserved for your name. You aren't competing for the same inventory of destinies. What was assigned to your name remains assigned, regardless of what happens in someone else's story. Cheer for them, celebrate, and know their victory wasn't at your expense. The third tactic is a false urgency to prove yourself. It will show up disguised as motivation. It will tell you that you need to produce immediate results to show that what you believe is real. It will pressure you to force things, to act with frantic urgency, to try and materialize the decree with your own hands before it's time. The motivation will feel healthy, but the effect will be the opposite, because the pressure to prove comes from a premise that says the decree needs your strength to survive. It doesn't. The weapon. Activation is not forcing. The one who forces is declaring that the decree is insufficient without human intervention. God's decree doesn't need your performance to be valid. Receive. Do not force. And there is an internal enemy that will whisper softer than the other three. It will whisper that you aren't that special, that this kind of message is for everyone, and you're just appropriating something that wasn't specifically for you, that there are people more qualified, more holy, more deserving of a decree than you. The weapon against the internal enemy is the name of the identity you recognized. Survivor, bearer, chosen. When the whisper comes, say the name out loud. Type protected in the comments. The decree is sealed. Now the moment has arrived. The moment this entire message has been preparing you for. Sit with your back straight, feet firm on the floor, hands on your knees with your palms facing up. Take a deep breath, not fast, slowly. Feel the air coming in. Feel the weight of your body in the chair, the contact of your feet with the ground. Now let go. Let go of the weight of battles you didn't choose to fight. Let go of the weight that had no end date. Let go of the weight of carrying the chosen identity without being able to say it out loud yet. Let go of the tension of having to prove, of having to deserve, of having to do anything for the decree to become real. Let it fall. God says, I saw you. In every moment you stayed in the shadows, on the edge of the bed before the alarm, when that nameless question rose from your chest and you just stared at the floor not knowing what to ask. In the silence of the room, with the phone in your hand, not looking for anything, just wanting something solid to hold while the weight of the weight settled in the dark. In the face you kept composed when the pain was on the inside, in the smile you held up in rooms where everything in you wanted to retreat, in the effort you gave that no one recorded with the weight it deserved. I saw every one of those moments. Not from a distance, not as an observer looking on from safety. From the same place you were, in the same room, on the same edge of the bed, in the same silence. And what I need you to know is this: you weren't forgotten on those nights. You were being formed. What was built in those dark chambers, in the long nights, in the cycles that seemed to have no exit, what was forged in the pressure you didn't choose but you survived, is exactly what is going to sustain what comes next. Not as compensation for what you went through, not as a consolation prize after so much time waiting, but as the fulfillment of what was promised before the suffering even began. The suffering didn't create the destiny. The destiny existed first. The suffering formed the one necessary to carry it. Go. Not as someone trying to prove something to the world or to yourself, but as someone who knows what has been sealed in their name. With the stillness of someone who has arrived after a long journey. With the clarity of someone who no longer has to fight for what has already been won. Over your mind, a clarity that cannot be disturbed by selective memory, by comparison, or by false urgency. Over your relationships, a coverage that dissolves what was sent to diminish you and strengthens what was established to sustain you. Over your timing, a perfect alignment between the spiritual plan and the moment the decree becomes visible in the physical world. Over your identity, A certainty that needs no external validation because it is grounded in a decree that came before your birth. Say it out loud now, not in your thoughts, with your voice. Say, "It is done. I am not the person I was when this message began." Say it again if you have to. Say it until you feel it settle. Amen. Now type "done" in the comments. Not later. Now. The decree is activated when you act in the moment of recognition, not when the emotion cools and the routine returns. And there is someone. You know who it is. A specific person who is carrying a battle they don't know has already been won. Who is sitting on the edge of the bed before the alarm with that nameless question rising. Who picked up their phone in the dark this week not looking for anything. They need to hear that the battle is over. Send this video to that person now. Not one day, now. The link is in the first comment. It is done. You are not the same person you were when this message began. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part, you start wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're being heard up above, if it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video.